Good evening, you fantastic and glorious human beings of this floating rock that we call Earth. Welcome to Off the Wire Live. I am your host, Noel Olin, and we have an absolutely packed show for you tonight. I'm excited to get into it. A lot of people are not going to like it, period. Especially when I open up, and that's okay. Uh, uh, m- a lot of people get offended by the truth, period. That's what they do. It sucks. It hurts, but it matters. And so we're going to number one overall dive off into the truth, no matter how much it offends anyone whatsoever. That's what we're going to do. So, welcome to Off the Wire. I am your host, Noel Olin. Before we get started, please go check out whotouchedthethermostat.com. That's whotouchedit.com. You can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and I believe Facebook if he hasn't been banned from there yet, like I have. Permanently banned, unfortunately. 40,000 follower page and another however many they allowed me to have on my personal account. Hopefully he is there. Go check him out though. Whotouchedit.com. You can see the logo. Who touched the thermostat? But you want to go to whotouchedit.com. I'm wearing one of his shirts right now. As you can see, dangerous liberty over peaceful slavery. Now, with that being said, before I bring on my distinguished guest, let's talk about something that's been happening. And thank God, literally, it is on the decline quite dramatically because the science is undeniable. The facts are undeniable, period. So let's talk about it. And I'm going to go straight for the throat on the headline. Trans activists are anti human. Yes, that is spicy, flavorful, and a lot of people are going to call that clickbait. But no, it's not because everyone knows it's true. Period. We can dive off into the facts that everyone has been admonished with. Maybe not the right word, but very truthful. 100%. You have been given the facts over the rates of healthy activity when it comes to the trans community. They are anti human. Why? Well, for one, they promote, and this is something that has to stop, right? We don't need the government to get involved. We don't need a threat of force and use of violence to course correct what is happening mentally in a vast majority of Americans. They are literally now, instead of going back to what we were doing, being let people live, now, now we're promoting this, which is undeniably destructive to not just society, but the individual. And it is undeniable scientifically, factually, by every metric. It's undeniable that promoting a severe mental illness is horrific to the person involved, to the people involved surrounding that person that they love, and to society as a whole. This cannot continue. And I don't think it is going to continue. Um, I think we're seeing a turn, and that's a good thing. It needs to be a healthy turn. It needs to be a turn in which we pivot from promoting this psychoticness to encouraging these people to seek help, because that's the that's the underlying issue. They have severe mental health issues. And also, yes, of course, society has a major role in this. The most major role. And yes, if you're asking me personally, it is a psyop. It is fundamentally at its core encouraging people to embrace the worst of themselves and not promote the best of themselves. And then they tell you while they're doing it that if you say otherwise, you're a bigot. Make it make sense. Am I inflammatory online? Yes, of course, because it reaches people. And I'm not shy about my beliefs at all. But if we're going to actually have a conversation about how we progress this country forward, then we need to have the conversation about where we are with mentally ill people severely. The trans community is severely mentally ill. This is not up for debate. It's not in question. It is a 100% fact, undeniable science. Now, should we encourage someone that's dealing with a mental disorder? Maybe they're body shamed. Should we encourage it? No, obviously you wouldn't do that. You would not encourage an anorexic person to continue to indulge and promote their anorexia. We all know this to be true. That's just a mild example. We can go through all kinds of sorts. So, why do we continue to advocate for this severe mental illness, knowing it results in destruction of themselves and everyone around them? They wind up being violent. We see that with facts. They wind up being bullies. This is undeniable because of their insecurity, because nobody has the freaking testicular fortitude to tell them that they're wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we supposed to kowtow to this person's feelings while sacrificing everything of logic and science and health around them? Come on. Stop it. Please. You're gross. It's unbelievably horrific. And a big reason that this continues to get pushed, even though the culture is pushing back, is because of big pharma. Come on, liberals, where are you? You pushed the COVID vaccine, advancing the opportunity and monetary value of big pharma, and you're still unapologetic about it, or at least most of you. And you're following the same track with this. You're destroying people's lives by advocating for this kind of pure evil. I mean, you know it in your core. You know it in your heart. It's wrong. It's evil. And we shouldn't be encouraging anyone to promote this path of utter deception, for one, but the destruction of their mental health. Stop. Come on. I'm asking you, please. Why does it matter? Because it's demonic and you're destroying people. It's anti human at its core, and everyone knows it. It is anti human for, if no other reason, then it depletes the birth rate. So stop. You're on the wrong side of history. You are the bad guys. If you're promoting the trans agenda, if you're promoting the anti human agenda of less people on this planet, and use every one of the talking points that you think you can have and try to mathematically deduce to where that would actually end up. And if it ends up in less people, then you're on the wrong side of history. That's it. Period. Point blank. You are wrong. Now, let's have some fun. Bringing in Jacob, the rise of liberty. My man, what's happening? What's going on?
Hey, man, that was a great opening monologue, and thanks for bringing me on. I'm excited. So,
I appreciate that, brother. I feel very passionate about it because at the end of the day, I hope I expressed that it's not really, it's not in succinctly about the trans community. It's just that one aspect that seems to be lost on the common man, that if you're subscribing to this ideology, then you need to understand that you're fundamentally anti-human and you're a fascist, communist, tyrannical. Even if you're confused about it, you still are those things. And the result of what you advocate for is less human beings. And if you're, and there's a lot of people that are going to say, okay, fine.
right.
Yeah.
And, what's interesting is a lot of the official establishment narratives these days that typically tends to be the overall conclusion is anti-human, less humans, one way or another. Specifically, as far as the trans topic goes, the first thing I usually try to say this is I have great sympathy towards anyone suffering legitimately with body dysmorphia, gender dysmorphia, these sorts of issues. I
Yes.
can't even imagine how god awful that would be, and
Correct.
that is truly terrible. These people definitely need help, but the way you help them is not by enabling it. You don't tell a bulimic they're fat, you know. You're not going to give a drug addict the drugs to go kill himself with. It's just not how you treat these conditions. And I can't believe that that's controversial these days.
Yeah, that's
So,
what's crazy, right? Like that's where we are. I'm
right,
glad you brought that up because that's actually what the problem is that these positions are not controversial. Any sane human being would be like, "Yo, you're traveling down a very destructive path," and for me to say that thing makes me the bad guy. No,
right,
you're calling evil good and good evil. Period. Full stop. Because loving someone is not encouraging them to continue down a destructive path, regardless of said path. Right? I brought up the trans issue because it's a hot topic button, but it's still freaking applies. If you're traveling down that path, you're traveling down a mathematically provable path that leads to destruction. And loving someone is not encouraging them to go down that path. When you love someone, you tell them the freaking truth. Period.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even sure what to add to that. Honestly, it's just that you cannot enable somebody and then genuinely turn around and claim to love them or to even care about them. You don't even have to love somebody to show somebody that you care. There's lots of people I care about that, I don't love. There's all sorts of people that I have a genuine amount of caring for just because they are in existence, just because they are them. Um, but I'm not about to encourage any sort of behavior that I wouldn't encourage
That's right.
for anyone else. Not only just for myself, but for my direct family, my close friends. And the one thing that I am really curious about is a lot of this is stemming from people's fear of being called bad names, uh, phobic this or ist that. Um,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah,
What you just pointed out is a massive point of value. You said people were scared of being called names.
right.
Where do you think that comes from? Because in my mind, that's not organic. That was developed and designed for a specific reason. But I don't want to say too much. I want you to answer.
So I think you are right. But what I think it stems from is that there is a natural desire for humans to want to belong. Like one thing that humans need for survival is other humans. Like we need companionship. That's just how it is. We have an innate desire to be part of a community. Um, uh, so many terrible things are based upon exploiting that very need for people. I mean, that's why cults exist. Is because usually people at their lowest point are looking for some sort of community to belong to. And so I believe that the language is the manipulative planned part of all of this that you were speaking about. That this is the intentional manipulation of a very subconscious innate human desire to be a part of the crowd.
Where does that innate human desire to be a part of a community come from?
That's actually a really good question. I would assume that it stems from the fact that we know that there's safety in numbers. Being alone, not only does
Animals
the
believe that.
right. So humans can be alone. Some people handle it better than others. I'm one of these people that I'm fine for long stretches of time just by myself reading books. Um, but I still do need somebody. I still like my friends and family around. Um, so exactly where it comes from, I don't know. I'm probably not the best person to ask. Um, but it does seem to be innate. Like we're all born with the desire to be part of the crowd. Um, and where we get into trouble, I think, is where we live in a world that is built on trying to manipulate the crowd, all the way from televisions, constant advertisements. I mean, just the entire structure of social media and all of the psychology that goes into that. Almost everything in our modern society is built in some way or another with the intent of manipulating us. I mean, Facebook
But
got in trouble
the
for that, right? You know,
yep, yep.
manipulating mass amounts of people by making just tiny little changes. So it's where it comes from. I would say it's probably just a universal truth, a a a part of
Who
life that
provides a
we
universal truth?
yes we humans need other humans. Um,
Why?
and we why?
Yeah.
Well, because that's part of the human experience.
Yep.
So it's just it's objective truth. And without other
It
people, I
is.
mean, there's no point in us advancing or growing beyond anything. So, I mean, it
But
totally gives us meaning.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. I'm trying to drive into the nail of
Yeah.
why. What makes us, because what you're saying is you're saying that humans are instinctively and uniquely different from every other animal on planet Earth. So
Well, I
why?
mean, we have thumbs for one, larger brains, frontal cortexes, so we're aware of these things. So we can make the choice. Um, but it actually helps us to be able to improve those relationships. It's not just a, oh, I know that that's also my kind, so I'm sticking with my kind and I'm a deer running through a field. Like there is an innate difference regardless of what people believe. Um, but it would just be objective truth that we do need other people. Uh, how would I phrase that? So we would
Let
have
me help you. Let me help you. The answer is God. The answer is intelligent design because there is no other species of animal on this planet that has the inquisition and compassion and love for their fellow species like we do.
true.
That's the answer. That's what I was trying to get you to was that we are uniquely different because we are formed and created in the image of God, which brings me back to my opening monologue. You cannot possibly adopt a severe mental illness that results in the self deletion of over 40% and think that that's natural and okay. And beyond that, anything that um, penetrates the exterior of what God's atmosphere, what his ecological system is, um, I think is a false and needs to be brought back into reality, which brings me to why I was pressing you on your point. Excuse me. I asked you why. And my answer is because we are uniquely made, because we are special. And if we're special, then we have to find out why. And once you dive off into, I don't know, 5 seconds of why, you'll understand why we have something like the Bible and we have something like our Constitution and a Civil War that literally freed the slaves faster than any other country. Because we believe that human beings, despite your color, race, ethnicity, religion, all that, have a distinct special place in the atmosphere of God. And hopefully, because not everyone created is a child of God, that's not true. Everyone is a creation of God. You cannot be a child of God until you accept God's kingdom, which Jesus established.
Talk about a hot take.
I didn't even know that was a hot take. Common sense. Everyone's God's creation. No, not everyone's God's children. You have to be adopted. Like Paul writes about this extensively in the New Testament. to multiple
Yeah.
churches. This is not in question. He says that the Gentiles are grafted into the family tree, which the Jews started.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to be adopted into the family as a Gentile, or you have to accept Jesus Christ as the Messiah and the prophet that God sent as his own one and only son to die for your sins, be it Jew, Gentile, or otherwise, or you're not in the family.
Yeah.
It's not a hot topic. It's expressed throughout the New Testament. So that's the answer I was trying to get to in regards to what makes us different. And I just rabbit trailed the rest of it. My bad. And so again, why does it matter? Because you cannot be anti-human, anti-procreation. And if you're pro-trans, if you're pro-gay alphabet mafia cult, then you are fundamentally against the will of God. He said, go forth and make more. Go procreate. You can't do that outside of heterosexuality. So, yeah, even on my own channel, I'm going to be honest because that's what I do. It's okay to say that these things are abnormal because they are, because they don't advance the human race. And you don't even have to invoke religion on this. It's just a fact. If it doesn't produce more human beings, then that lifestyle isn't normal. And that's not controversial.
No, I agree. It First of all, I'm not even sure if I agree with the facts that anything could be controversial. I mean, because that's just a matter of opinion. And I mean, if somebody chooses to be offended, it's just that you chose to be offended. It's doesn't mean that what it is actually offensive. You chose to be offended.
That's right.
So I'm not quite sure the concept of a hot take or whatever actually does exist. It's just people's reaction to hearing whatever. And I mean, so the reason I struggled answering that is because in my mind, the way my thought process was working is that because I mean, and I'm of course even going to struggle talking about it, but it's like, why would we need other people? Well, why are we here then? Like like we are more than one. I think everyone agrees
That's
with
good.
that. Like we all have some sort of connection, right? And if it's just one man or one woman or one human living on the planet alone, I mean, there's nothing to compare it against. So there's no struggle, there's no adversity, there's no temptation or any of these things to be able to improve oneself, uh, to build something better. Um, there's no point of anything. So it needing other people is like the cornerstone of the entire foundation of why we're here is other people. So that's why I was struggling with it. And that's just a longer, fancier way of answering it the same way that you did. Um, so that's my personal opinion. But I believe that these are all manipulations of this uh, innate desire to be part of the community, be part of the crowd. Because one thing that is incredibly damaging to humans, and this, I mean, this has been scientifically proven, this is observably true, that being cast out of the group is incredibly damaging physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's just it can really break somebody down. And that's why, historically speaking, it's been used as punishment to cast somebody out.
Solitary confinement.
Yeah, exactly. So it's using that fear of being cast out, of being left alone, of uh, being the odd person out. It's the fear of that that is being manipulated to get people to conform. So I believe that there actually are a lot more people that are uncomfortable with these ideas. However, they are pressured into conforming because maybe they live in a liberal city and haven't left for some reason. And all of their friends, are saying this because one friend heard it on the TV and just repeated it. And so now everyone just agrees with it because everyone thinks that everyone else actually believes it. And now you got pressured into saying you believe in something that you don't believe in. And it's just like this horrible, vicious cycle. And I mean, I've seen it before. I've seen people betray or at least say that they do believe in something, or that their position is something that I knew for a fact was not. And it was purely because they wanted to be accepted. And
Eh, actually, that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next. You
hell yeah.
nailed it. Acceptance, right? It's
Right.
quite clear that Joe Biden hates Kamala Harris and what they did. And the entire Democrat establishment, in all honesty, because he wanted acceptance and they booted him out without his agreement. And now it's quite clear to me, correct me if I'm wrong or give your opinion, that they have like completely shoved him out of the eyeball of the population, kicked him out of the entire freaking race, and now he seems very mad. Do you think that's real, or do you think that that's hyperbole and we're jumping to conclusions? Because in my opinion, like, he's interrupted like he's never before, uh, live broadcasts of him, live press conferences that he's never done before, in the middle of Kamala's interviews, and just wildly seems like he is actively sabotaging her campaign. Your thoughts?
Um, no, I actually do believe it to be genuine. Um, the reason why is because, I mean, the DNC did the exact same thing to Joe Biden that they did to Bernie when they were trying to get Hillary Clinton the nomination. So
Yep.
they made the choice for the organization, for the voters, and for the delegates. I find it hilarious, as funny as it can be, anyways, that this is the group, the party that keeps screaming about democracy, and it's like, well, you guys, your party just basically dethroned the sitting president and told him to sit down and shut up.
Hmm.
So the vice president that nobody likes, who had to drop out of the 2020 race because nobody liked her, is going to be taking over now. And I'm sure they did something behind the scenes, maybe the 25th Amendment or whatever, threaten this or whatever, say you play along and your legacy will stay intact or whatever. But if you get out of line, then, we'll do what we do. So I do believe it is genuine. At least part of it, because I don't believe he's all mentally there. I think
Correct.
that's very clear. But the one thing I do know about, like, dementia, Alzheimer's, conditions like this, the degenerative cognitive disorders, they still have moments of lucidity. So at least some of the time, I guarantee he knows what's going on. And
Yeah. Hold on. Before you move further, hold on, because I have my wife asked me about this, and this is I haven't. Excuse me. I haven't talked about this with anyone else. Here's my conspiracy theory on what you're talking about with his lucidity and his cognitive abilities. And I'm gonna make it real quick, and then you tell me what you think, and then expand further. I think it's harder as somebody in their 80s, somebody who's clearly slipping into at least the first stages of senility, that they can be more comfortable and more lucid and more intelligent when they don't have all that pressure on them and they're not trying to act. I think when Joe Biden is trying to do the whole Trump thing is the worst, I think he's failing because he's acting. I don't think he actually believes that. Nobody in their right mind actually believes that, right? That's a play. And when you're trying to act, it's a lot more difficult with somebody who's potentially slipping into the first stages or otherwise senility to be able to play that card. It's much more difficult than when you have all of the shackles lifted off. Now, all of a sudden, you're not having to run for president and you're just being yourself and you're just reacting in the moment. I think it's, in my personal opinion, I think it's quite clear what we see is going on between the negativity towards the Kamala Harris campaign from the Biden administration and then just the lucidity, as you said, of Biden after having the chains lifted off of him having to run for president. And every time that he talks just naturally, he seems just like a nice old man, not giving him any pass. Guy's been a horrible, horrible human being his entire life, but now he's old. Okay. He's old, very old. And so there's some leeway there. I think the problem comes in with him acting like this political candidate as opposed to just being himself. Your thoughts?
I don't think you're too far off. It's as far as the acting aspect of your comment, I do think that that's right. Although I do believe that that has more to do just with getting older and whether you have a degenerative disease or not or condition. It's just like it's got to be because he doesn't give a shit anymore, and there's got to be a part of him. Like he put in his entire adult life into the establishment. Directly out of law school, he went directly into public service and has not left since. So he has literally given his life for the corrupt establishment that we see before ourselves today. And I'm sure he feels entitled to get, something he's not getting. I don't know what it is, because to me, it kind of seems like he's gone above and beyond with what he's gotten, him and his entire family. So I don't know the specifics, the details behind the scenes, but it's very clear that the establishment is not holding up their end of the bargain, whatever shady bargain it is. He's pissed about it. He is in his twilight years. He doesn't have to run for president anymore. This is the end of his political career just his career in general, since he's actually never worked in the private sector. And I mean, I'm sure he's probably angry about, all of this coming to an end, probably dealing with some mortality issues. And honestly, from what I understand, just accounts I've read, so, take it with a grain of salt, he's just kind of a nasty person. So just a bad attitude because he's a piece of shit. So
Yeah,
I think it's
he always has
combinations
been.
of all of it.
Yeah,
So
you're definitely right. And he's absolutely been, a terrible human being his whole
right.
life. Um, I think there's more to the nuance that is going right now. Um, like by a lot, if I can
Yeah.
express that. The guy is very, very old. Everybody can see he's very, very not just old, but deteriorating, right? Like him and Trump are not even they're very close in the same age,
Hmm.
and the world's difference of cognitive ability is wild. But I wanted
Yeah.
to before we get out of here, I wanted to ask you about this. I'm pretty sure you saw it. I shared it. It says this is a news article. It's real. It says carbon footprint of homegrown food 5 times greater than those grown conventionally. I'll repeat: carbon footprint of homegrown food is 5 times greater than those grown conventionally. Subtitle: the study found uh, individual garden infrastructure responsible for increased levels of CO2. Now, what I said about that is obviously they're trying to get you to not grow your own food.
Right.
And I answered as to why, and that they want you to depend it on the system. But I do believe that it creates an absolute, way more important subject matter than who's running for president. Do you agree or disagree, and why?
Um. Well, here the fact that they are trying to control us, uh, to that degree. I mean, they will. There are no bounds, uh, to which they will go to, in order to make us dependent upon them. Because the funny thing about the establishment, the state, is that it doesn't produce anything. It doesn't make anything or actually benefit much of anyone or anything unless you're a criminal in charge of it. Um, so they have to create the reason for their existence. They have to create their job themselves, basically. And the way our system is now is the more independent we are, the less we need them, meaning they don't have the justification to be sending billions of dollars to other countries. They don't have the justification to keep, uh, you know, raising taxes for this and that and all of these other things. They don't have the justification to continue functioning the way that they do, and so they've got to come up with all of these problems. Um, as far as climate change, global warming, all of this nonsense, it's just that. It is, in my opinion, absolutely a crock of shit. It does not exist. Weather exists, climate exists. However, everyone in charge of these official positions, letting us know that the world is it's teetering on the edge of all of these terrible calamities due to uh, due to an increase in greenhouse gases, right? Okay, CO2. First of all, the climate is way more complex. CO2 is just a tiny fraction of the overall makeup, the biochemical makeup of the atmosphere itself. In fact, it's actually only like 3%, 3.4%, I believe. So before I could even go down the road of any of believing any of this, first of all, you have to prove to me why an increase in CO2 is actually harmful to the environment. Uh, I mean, there's ice core samples going back thousands of years showing that the average level of CO2 in the atmosphere was somewhere around 1,000 parts per million. People are freaking out right now that it's above 400 parts per million. Um,
Well, I
so
mean,
that doesn't
without
track.
right. You're absolutely 100% agree. Without getting into the nuance of what is or isn't climate change, I would say that the more important conversation is what we can do as human beings within the culture of preserving human beings. Because I think that the culture of the mindset of especially Western human beings um, has become toxic and deadly. And
Right.
specifically, one of those points is in regards exactly to what you're saying is that these psychopaths would rather less human beings to save the planet for human beings. Like, what? No, you're
Yeah.
psychos. It doesn't make any sense. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, you're good. It's I do think that that is the more important aspect is what can we do? I mean, because we could sit here and talk about the problems till we're all blue in the face. It is good to know at least a bit of the issues. Unfortunately, we live in an era where if you're not part of the establishment hive mind to where you can just shout the craziest things and never be held accountable, if you're on the other side fighting for truth, we are held to this standard where we have to have all the facts all the time ready to go. And,
And they still don't
luckily,
matter.
yeah, it still don't matter. Even if you get everything right, you give all the right answers and everything, they'll just say, "Well, you're just wrong anyways." It's
Yeah, look at COVID.
it's crazy. Exactly.
I
So, I
mean,
mean, it is what it is, but, uh, it's the best thing that we can do, in my opinion, is do what we know is best for ourselves and for our family. So, does it logically make sense? Does it reasonably make sense that growing our own food, which would lessen the stressors on the supply chains, would be able to supplement your grocery bill, meaning you're not as reliant on the grocery stores, meaning the grocery stores don't have to order as much, meaning less trucks have to drive on the road, meaning there's less pollution. Does it actually make sense that not growing your own food would be beneficial to the environment? Or does it actually make sense to grow your own food and to get as much food as you possibly can as close to your home as you possibly can? The thing is the problem with our food these days is that there are limited suppliers. At one point in time, there used to be farms everywhere. Every community didn't have to go that far. Well, now, because of overregulation, uh, insurance requirements, all of these other things, it has caused the industry of factory farming to develop, industrial farming, which is just god awful. I mean, disease spreads and like all of these terrible things. So why would you not take control of the source of your food? I mean, you can be in charge of what goes into it. It's your choice if you use chemicals or not. It's your choice if you want to learn how to grow things other ways. It's up to you what to grow. It's up to you
but but
how you deal with
but
all
the
of these
state
other
nee
things.
but the state needs to regulate that because maybe you're doing something bad.
Well, what mama don't know don't hurt her.
Wrong.
That's all I'm saying.
That was the wrong answer.
Well,
I was trying to set you up with a softball there. Now, what actually the result is that you wind up with more beneficial and product growth. You wind up with more healthy food because people are not going to want to sell you something that is not good, unless you just accept it. So when you rely on the private sector, especially for food, what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to sell you a product that is the most healthy, most profitable, uh, easy to produce product. Now, if they don't do that, then you don't buy their product. If it's something that makes you sick or somebody else, and never forget that word of mouth is still the strongest avenue for a success or a failure for any business.
Amen.
And you go and you do something stupid, it's going to spread like wildfire and it'll shut your business down. If you're
Yep.
great, you're fine. That's it. You don't need government regulation.
Yeah.
Thank you, my
Self-policing.
friend. Right. Self-policing for sure. This has been great. Give us your last pitch. How can we follow you? How can we support you?
So the easiest way to find me is by going to risetoliberty.com/links, LINKS. Or you can find me on Instagram, X, and Telegram, Rise to Liberty. I mean, you can just type it into a search engine, find me anywhere. Don't use Google. Google tracks you. Use anything other. Other than that, honestly, all I would have to say is at this point in time, there's very little very little benefit that the state actually gives us. And free men do not ask permission. The difference between a gangster and an outlaw is a gangster will betray his ethics to do whatever, to achieve whatever outcome. An outlaw, what they do is they stick by what is true regardless of what the popular opinion is or what the law says. So I definitely would say we need more outlaws. So stick by the truth and you'll always be true. So, hey, Cajun, thanks for having me on. This is great. And I look forward to talking to everyone. Also, anybody wants to talk about climate, I'm all fired up about that stuff lately anyways. So
That's awesome. No, thank you for joining me. It's been amazing. Last night was amazing. Go check out his podcast. That if you're on Spotify, Apple Tunes, or anything of the like,
yep.
you will find him. And I think it's next Monday.
Yep.
Restricted says speaking about laws. I threw this up here earlier. The feminist misogynist says hello. So yeah, you can find his show. Where can they find your show outside of your .com? Like Spotify, Apple Tunes?
Yeah, the video, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, all of the places, nice. Audio, pretty much everywhere you can find it. I tried to make sure that my show is available as many places as possible in the hopes that just dogpiling on the censors, they can't get every source. You will still be able to find me somewhere, somehow.
Nice. Well, thank you, my friend. It's been awesome. Anything left you got to plug?
No, that's pretty much that's pretty much it. I mean, I do have some really cool stuff coming up, so I'll let you know about all these things. And
let us know.
Thanks for having me on, man.
No, thanks for coming. Appreciate you,
Anytime.
brother. See you
later, man.
Absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much for joining in. What an incredible interview. Just check it out. risetoliberty.com/links. Again, that's risetoliberty.com/links. Absolutely amazing. Go check out the front end of the show as well as the back end and all of the middle. Just incredible. Thank you so much. You absolutely glorious and fantastic human beings of this floating rock that we call Earth. You can catch me live every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 Central on Off the Wire. You're incredible. Please share the show, like it, comment. The comments help drive the algorithm live more than anything. But the 5-star reviews and the just unbelievable support all around is incredible. I can't thank you enough. I love you so much. Remember, be free, and Romans 8:28. I'm out.